thank you guys that you are here after this nice lunch full of wine, and you are a special audience. I will try to give my presentation in an hour. I have a lot of slices, but many of them are just for doing more research when you get the film, the whole presentation. So you can look up maybe if you are interested in some topics more, and also there's more scientific proof, but I will just focus on certain things that I think are interesting in additional to what we have heard already this morning, because there are so many good things that were already said. So I try to find something new for you. And if you don't get impatient if I go over some slides quickly, because you get the whole presentation later and I will focus on the very interesting things. So, you have already read, I hope so, what you see here. It is easier to build strong children than to repair broken adults. And also, nothing in biology makes sense except in the light of evolution. This is from the biologist and Russian Orthodox Christian Theodosius Dobzhansky, criticizing young Earth creationism and espousing evolutionary creationism. So I focus a lot on evolution, but you will see also on other things. So here's an overview. I will first go a little bit into genetics and talk about HIV and the immune system. And then I will talk about epigenetics, which is quite a new topic and very interesting. I go to microbes and evolution and continue with immunization. And then at last I have what does it mean to be human. So, beginning with this genetics, HIV and immunization. If you look at the picture here, you see the genes for proteins in humans are only 2% of the whole genome. If you look to bacteria, it's most. So in between you have yeast and you have worms, and you see the untranscribed regions begin to become more. It exaggerate when we become human. And we also have transcribed and non-coding regions. That means transcribed means RNA, and you will see many different RNAs. Here is another picture with the same thing. The plants have 20,000 genes. Arabidopsis is one major plant used, and the humans also have 24,000 genes, or about 20,000 we are saying now. But the untranscribed region is big, and here the transcribed region is big. What we think about what is transcribed, we will see, we may be in error. So you see first something genetic which is curious. There are some genes that are really stored all over evolution. You see here called the KIT gene, and it just makes a little patch on the front, and it's nearly the same in the mouse and in the human. And here you have trisomy 21 or Down syndrome, which everybody knows. So these children are really able to do much more than we thought before in other times. And here you have something like looking at the tree where we came from. It's very simple, it's not really deep going in. But what is interesting is that we have an acceleration in the rate of duplication of genes. And this means that we have a lot of genes that we can use maybe for changing and doing something else. So it's fast evolution beginning here. And this is just a nice thing to see. Any ape can reach for a banana, but only humans can reach for the stars. And I thought this is very nice to think about. So here we have the main thing interesting. We have retrotransposons. And we have transposons. This make the duplications of the genes. You can copy and paste or cut and paste, whatever. You have the gene jumping to another place, or you have duplication of genes. You see this from Barbara McClintock, who got the Nobel Prize in 1983. The jumping genes are transposons that make the maize in these different colors. And how this functions, you see in the next picture. Here you see the jumping gene from here jumps into another place and disturbs the gene for the color. And so you get the kernels in white. And this makes something that you can even see that the jumping genes worked. Here we have something about the provirus in our genes. You saw that we have only 2% of protein coding genes. And a very famous molecular biologist, John McCuffin, said there's more provirus in us than there's us in us. Because we have, like we heard yesterday also in the message from professor of the chair of our session here, Etienne de Harven. He also always states that we have much more retrovirus than in our genes than we have
8%.
Yeah. The Human Genome Project discovered our genetic background and reducing the amount of protein coding genes to about 20,000. Before it was thought it should be 120,000, but it's less. Here are a lot of scientific papers that state that long non-coding RNA is very interesting for discovering how our genome works, and they are just the papers. We have a lot of higher natural expression variation with these special long non-coding RNAs, and you will see I will focus a lot on the RNAs. And also here is about the Human Genome Project, and they state that we have something that is very interesting. We have horizontal gene transfer. That means a lot of our genes, maybe even more than we ever have thought, arrive from the bacteria, because they just are our surrounding, and we have them on skin and the gut everywhere, and they are not only in symbiosis, but they also might have given, and I will show more proof, for creating our genes. So now I come to the immune system. A major part is called the MHC or LLH in humans, human leukocyte antigen system, and it gives no new insights in co-evolution of species, particularly for us mammals and with primates and microbes. This is just a paper to show there is something in the scientific literature. HLA is the most diverse part in our dense of genes in our genome. So dense means we have lots and lots of genes for our immune system, and we will see they are absolutely variable. So when you hear genes are something that is not changing, that might be for some genes that create our body, but for the immune system that's absolutely different. Here I show you just the chromosome number 6, where the HLA system is localized, and you will see that it is absolutely diverse. We have HLA-ABC and HLA-DR-AB and so on. You don't have to remember this. I just want to show you how complex it is in the next picture. You see, and then again in the next picture. And we have such a diversity in our immune system genes that you cannot imagine. So these are things that are interesting for the scientists, like HSP70, which is heat shock protein and is named to be a part of HIV. And also you see a binding region for virus. This is all on chromosome 6. This is a nice picture. Why I show this is not because this is interesting for you and you know this, but to show that each virus particle always contains in the outer shell HLA molecules, otherwise you will never have a virus particle. And this HLA, DR, is for more strange binding proteins, and the HLA1 is more for our own proteins. And here you have some tables out of the paper, which just show that the so-called genes of the virus, like NEF in this place, are associated to HLA genes. And as we differ in our HLA genes, we also differ in what we will express in our immune system. Here is the table for the so-called protease and reverse transcriptase, and you see there are a lot of possibilities how they interact together, these different genes. And this is just to show that it's not a virus mutation, but it's a mutation in the so-called GAG, POL and NEF that is related to our HLA, which is printed here. This is this gene, so the NEF mutates a lot if you are, let's say, B something else or C something else. So it's different, it's just a genetic relationship. And you see, we are so different, and so we are different in our immune system. We all react because we have ancestors and we have different surrounding, we have different nutrition and different lifestyle. And as Václav Havel said, the dissident from Czechoslovakia, who made the Charter 77, life has a tendency to plurality, being colorfully, to independence, simply to freedom. The totalitarian system demands monolithical unity, uniqueness and discipline.
So he wasn't only the dissident, but the president.
Yeah, dissident and president later.
Very famous writer.
Yeah. I have read all his books. So you see there are named different HIV types in Africa. I will not, and all over the world. I will not go in this. If you are interested, you can do your own research. And yes, there's so much that is hidden. We don't know. We think we know everything, but most of the things we are even not aware. Here is something for people who are interested. All humans test HIV positive in antibody test if the test is just enough concentrated. You look at, yes. And there are some like elite controllers are not very interesting. I'm sorry, I have to go back. Because there are some people who just have the same amount of virus here, because this is viremia. This have more or less the same, but these are human extreme virus non-progressors, and these are human progressors. And they have the more or less same viral load. So it's just something that has not really only to do with what is called a virus. This is just scientific. Who is interested can look at it because there's everything explained. In our genome we have what I call the dark matter. We don't know. And involved are most non-coding RNA genes. They have recently been detected. So if you take a test, first, no matter what test, just question yourself, is the test safe and valid? Does the early detection prolong lifespan? Does early detection improve life quality? If you say 3 times yes, you might perhaps take the test, but even think about it. So you see, screening here. So if you do, like for cancer, early detection, they always say that prolongs life. It must not prolong life, because if you detect the cancer late, it might be that the time of death is the same. You just suffer a little bit longer, or maybe you just are not aware that you have cancer. But if there is something that prolongs your life, you see, death is now later, then it is good to have the test, otherwise not. So you know this, the test is not really represented for recognition. We had this already. You can look it up if you want. And here you know this Western blot that is bogus, because you can fly with your result from the test from Germany or Africa. You can fly to Australia or France, that was in former times, and then you will be claimed as HIV negative, because of the different standards just. It's the standards that make you positive or negative. Here is something about a false positive test. I will not go in this. And we already heard today about the nocebo and the placebo effect. And I wanted to state that some people who take the pills, the medication, are so anxious that the pills not only work by their chemical agent, but also as a placebo, because they just throw it in and think, now I'm safe. And if they get off the pills and they are not convinced, they might get ill just because of the nocebo effect. Pregnancy means also that the fetus is something new in your body, but we have already heard about this today. And with taking of heart, long time, you will see people who did not die of AIDS, so-called. They die of infection, but other, of cancer, of cardiac disease, of trauma, or of most of liver disease. We had this already. And medical error, the third leading cause of death in the US. This is stated by the Scientific British Medical Journal, 2016. So, what needs to be objected is the perspective you have. You see, the doctor needs the informed consent. So you as the patient are the ultimate and authoritative decision maker. The doctor can tell you and offer you something, but you are the decision maker. And this is not very interesting, but for research, you see taking ribavirin for other virus, you get a big mutation rate in the virus, because the medication drives the evolution of microbes. So heart drives evolution of the HLA and HIV called human genes. So the more and the harder the medication, the more you have called mutation. And mutation is evolution. Mutation must not be always bad, because you just change your genes and maybe you have a better chance. So there's conclusion that there is also a drug-induced autoimmunity. And this is just a paper that goes nearer, so you can read this if you want. And also genetics and the potential for predictive tests, adverse drug reactions. You find a lot of things if you are interested in this topic. So Paracelsus said, everything is dependent on the concentration. And it's the same with healthy things you take or medication. It's not one vitamin or the other, it's really always the concentration that is working in your body. You see, we had so good presentation today and all these body and soul things, so I just go over this. It's always body, mind and soul that work together, but what could be interesting for you is the immune balance. We have this called T1 and T2 reaction. T2 reaction is antibody production, and this is the beginning of the so-called AIDS. And also afterwards a T cell decline. But if you go to T1, which sometimes is reached by medication, then you might go to the other side of the immune system, which means cell proliferation and lack of apoptosis, and this could mean cancer. So it's always something you have to be in between. Only produce antibodies or only produce cells. You have to find the right balance. So a symbiotic interaction that originates from the genes of the immune system leads to communication particles called exo and endosomes that act differently within the immune system. And this is what we can see by electron microscopy and so on. We have a lot of RNA molecules. We have proteins, we have exon endosomes, also called informosomes, and proteins that are called clathrins, to mention just of them, some of them that work together in our immune system, because it is really an interactive communication system. Now the Human Microbiome Project tries to specify the genes of the microbes living in us and on our body. We have, as we already heard, 10-fold more microbes than we have cells in our body. And evolution is accelerated by ancient and also active lateral or horizontal gene transfer from microbes to our host. I will have more proof for this. So there's also genetic diversity in different regions, more in African people. African people just have a bigger diversity in their immune system. That is because they live in a different area with a warmer climate and more microbes. So their immune system is faster changing and they are more active, which means they might test even more HIV positive. And we also new genes are created that are interesting, called HLA-DRB genes that are totally dynamic and sometimes play a role also, we will see in vaccination. Luc Montagnier said we did not purify. So he's a really open guy. He said we did not purify the virus. This is a phylogenetic tree of what is called HIV and SIV and all of these variants of the virus, where you see nearly every, each animal has it, and even the sequences are in plants. So you eat your muesli in the morning, you eat HIV sequences. So, yeah, GP120 and GP41 are so-called special genes they are looking for. Conclusion: HIV means evolutionary adapted genetic variation instead of virus mutation. Here I have another picture of the so-called virus. These are not genes that are in a linear way. They are just combined in different ways. You see here, we call this open reading frames. And you heard from David Resnick that we have about 1 million of differences in these virus genome. This I will go faster. Yes, it's all about transposable elements that made our immune system so different. This is very interesting. So wake up, please. This is HIV is found most near genes and CG sequences. CG sequences means cytosine and guanine sequences. And these, if you have lots of them, this means you have bacterial origin in the human chromosomes. So you see now the bacterial origin, the CG. This is orange. And with orange comes green. These are the HIV integrated sites. So you see in chromosome 6, where we have our immune special systems, the HLA, you have a lot of HIV sequences. And you have a lot of these sequences, CG content, which means bacterial origin. So you always have bacteria and HIV together. So HIV alone is not thinkable. It's always something with bacteria in common. So expression of multiple horizontally acquired genes is a hallmark of both vertebrate and invertebrate genomes. There's a lot of research on this. Transcriptional analysis showed that more than 250 HIV dependency factors were identified. This means the bodily cells work with HIV in more than proven 250 relationships. So, human semen is also an inducer of a Th2 immune response. I think we heard this already, because the genes from the man should not be rejected by the woman. And so the fetus is protected because 50% come from the father. HIV is a natural product in sperms, and also HIV positivity means in many cases just an allergic reaction. Could be just an allergic reaction. Multiple interactions also in cell communication we find, and especially in our gut, in the gut-associated lymphoid tissue, so not directly in the gut but outside for protecting the organ. Because if you have a leaky gut by stress or by what you eat or your lifestyle, the germs from the gut go into from the intestines into the blood, and then you have to protect. And this is why we have so much lymphoid tissue there near the gut. And you see here, this is a picture of the relationship of what is called HIV proteins that interact. This is a newer paper with 1,452 human proteins. So that could not be acquired in 60 or 100 years. Never. GP120 is also a super antigen, which means that it increases the Th2 related reaction, which means antibody production. So with this reaction you get allergic, or you might get autoimmunity depending on which HLA genes are active. If the self genes are active, or if the genes are active that are for non-self. So you might have just allergy or autoimmunity. So you see here, the whole cell communication is depending on RNAs, proteins, exo and endosomes, and whatever. I think I had it already. And this is just the RNA family, which means that we have lots and lots of different RNAs. These are molecules that are produced from the so-called dark genome, which they don't know, but they are doing research on it. And here we had already that African American test more often positive, and also men who have sex with men. It's depending on the allergy and the reaction against proteins, and maybe on bacteria that are in the anal course. And the budget I don't go through because it's from 2008. I don't have access to the new numbers, but you see it's a lot. It's billions. So Combivir also, there's something, if you are interested, has some adverse effects in pregnancy. And also there's something about ACT. And yes, our nervous system and our immune system, they work together. And they are combined by interleukins, and interleukin 2 and 10 are interesting for those who do research. Both systems are involved in learning processes. So the immune system is nothing else than a learning system, like in our brain. But the whole body is a learning system, to say the truth. And what is really interesting is we have to distinguish between self and non-self. That is what the body does. It distinguishes between self and non-self, and it learns about new information. Should I accept or not? Yeah, you call it energy. If our body does not react to an antigen, we call it energy. And this is good, because we should not react always to our own antigens. So we should be allergic to our own antigens over the whole life, but this is not the truth. Sometimes by stress we react to our own proteins or glycoproteins. Alloantigens means that we are allergic to glycoproteins, and these are components of a lot of things. We get close to it. You might also test HIV positive. This I go over. It's dendritic cells are interesting. And HIV antibodies are autoantibodies, allergic antibodies, a hint for an active or imbalanced immune system increased after some vaccination. If HIV viruses are particles of cell communication, you can call them endo and exosomes. If you see the pictures going HIV from one cell to another, it is on the dishes. They do the cell analysis, and they stimulate the cells, and then they see exon endosomes going from one cell to another, because this is a communication, and they just call what they want virus. So the rest belongs to other diseases or wrong diagnosis. Could be malaria, hunger, bad water, lung and gut infections, drugs, or whatever. Oh, sorry. AIDS is gene expression and or self-organized mutation, genome extension, under the, and therefore evolution under elevated stress. The aim is the survival under unfavorable environmental conditions. That's normal. So, this is just when you have stress. Your body is wise, it reacts to the stress, it changes some genes because it wants to have another program. Yes? So this is like having a new program that might help in this very stressy situation. But better is you get off the stress. Medications themselves bring on these situations by which the cell responds with mutations. So hard medications makes mutations. So I come to epigenetics. Epigenetics means stimuli from the environment change our gene expression. This effect can be transmitted through generations. Most I will talk about just this stimuli and gene expression, but also this can really transfer to the next or even the third or fourth generation. And psychoneuroimmunology, you see the nerve system and the hormone system work together, and this is something that is really, we know, and we heard this morning from a lot of wise people. You see pregnancy, you think you are only responsible as a mother for your fetus, but your fetus already has the germ cells of the next generation, even in uterus. So they also could be just get a mark from what the mother is doing and her stress. Organic food drives mother's pregnancy, reduces risk of male birth defects. That's very interesting. It's just a paper you have to read if you are interested in. You see here, this picture looks like virus. This is from the uterus. We have a protein called syncytin that is necessary to even become pregnant, otherwise it's not possible. You see it here, with the placenta, it forms the placenta. This here I go over, that's the antibodies that bring the immunity to the fetus and afterwards to the embryo and child. This is very interesting, so wake up. Evolution and mutation. You see this curve. If you have mutation rate nearly to nothing, to zero, you have a lack of genetic diversity. And this means the population can be extincted. If you have like gene chaos, this means the individual gets very sick, and so the individual does not take it. And this is the normal thing. You have to change a little bit, depending on your surrounding, your stress and your lifestyle and whatever, but don't change too fast or don't change nothing, because then it's like extinction. So the result, the more stress, the more of mutations. This you can look over later. What we need is homeostasis. And you know, oxidative stress is really bad for our health. This is a picture. And also there's a question about autism and microbiome, if this could some be together. Because gut and brain work together. As we will hear from Marco Ruggiero, we also have viruses in our brain, and we have, at least in our gut, a lot of microbes. And we need, some people have AIDS, they have not enough regularly T cells. And this makes the balance between Th2 and Th1. Yes, it's not really like a computer, but the picture is nice. We have hardware, which we, our genetic background, and we have our living style software. And these are two women that worked on epigenetics, like Eva Jablonka and Marian Lamb. And here you see how it functions with epigenetics. Because in the case of HIV, epigenetics is involved in regulation of viral latency and viral replication. And here you see, you add methyl and acetyl groups to the DNA, and then it changes if the DNA is active or not active. With methylation, it gets closed. So this regulates gene expression. And you see what you eat and your lifestyle and how your parents might have treated you does combine to your health and disease. There are monogenetic diseases I showed, and also most are multifactorial. Food-derived opioid peptides inhibit cysteine uptake with redox and epigenetic consequences. This just shows that redox is very interesting for our health. So resilience can shut down stress and open the genes for our good life. Love and care trigger gene expression. It's not just a story, it really is proven. It is proven scientifically. So you have monogenetic twins, but they also have like different epigenetics. After years, more and more and more. Dutch famine means after the World War II, there were pregnant mothers that did not have enough food, and the children really had birth defects because of these stress situation, and they also give it to the next generation.
Stress because of Nazi?
Because of they did not have enough food, and I have explained this, and you can look it up because it's a full paper. So we have biological memory of past events, and we also have the epigenetics and the genetics of the past generations in us. You see, the genes can be switched on and off, and it depends if you have different organs. So we have the same genes, but in our body cells, but different expression in organs. This is like switching on and off. This is very interesting. It is proven that microRNA from a species like rice was able or is able to trigger gene regulation in human genes. So you eat your rice meal and the RNA triggers your gene expression. So now come to microbes and evolution. We have bacteria, and this is very necessary to know. They have a chromosome and they have what is called a plasmid, that is a small DNA piece in the cell. And bacteria got infected by bacteriophage. Bacteriophages enter a bacterium that is really proven, and you can see it. And, but there are two cycles. In one cycle, they destroy the cell, like here, because they are multiplied by the cell. In another cycle, they don't destroy, they enter just the genome. So this is called lytic cycle, and this is called lysogate cycle, and this is lytic cycle. So they can destroy or they can be integrated, and this is absolutely normal for bacteria. They have bacteriophage genes, all of them. So this is more about plasmids, and this is more about horizontal gene transfer in algae, and this is for people who like to go into the human microbiome more. And this is just, the next three pictures will show all the same. That bacteria that go under stress, or that are under stress, react as a whole system to the environment. And in this time, the stress is lack of nutrition. And what they do is just, they expand, they make a surface expansion, so they might reach more nutrients that are outside of their reach. That's what they do, and this is proven in a certain paper from Professor Tel Aviv University in Israel, Ben Jacob. And this is also how they react to stress as a whole system. And Lynn Margulis was the one who found out the cooperation and symbiosis between the cell and the microbes that invade. Because you have the chloroplast in the plant cell, you have the nucleus and the mitochondrion. And the mitochondrion is a form of bacteria. Even in our cells, mitochondria form a bacteria, you know this from school. So malaria, you see malaria, the red blood cells are infected by parasites, but they communicate via exosome-like vesicles, which are helping them to communicate in infecting the red blood cell. And we see here again something about a widespread horizontal gene transfer. We truly are distinct life forms. We are sums of microbial and human parts. So we need to re-evaluate how we think about evolution. Evolution is something that is absolutely close to what we call microbes. It's close to bacteria, close to what's called bacteriophages that infect the bacteria. And when we are infected by bacteria, we get the genes from the bacteriophage through the bacteria, and we get the bacteria in our organs, and we might have a lot of bacterial genes, as I will show later, in our genome. So we have, as I showed with HIV in chromosome 6, we have bacterial and viral genes in our genome, but they are ancient because the bacteria are infected by bacteriophages. And we are infected by bacteria, but we live in symbiosis with bacteria. You see again what you already heard. This is the amount in red of human cells, and this is the amount of microbes in our body. And this is the amount of human genes, you see the red hand, and this is the amount of bacterial genes in our body. So what you see is only microbes, microbes, microbes. Here you have very interesting now, because you always ask, is this a bad bacteria or not? It's not the bacteria that is bad, and it's not about good or bad bacteria, it's the place where the bacteria are. If you have a bacteria from the vagina in the nostril, it's not so good, but it's even not so hard. But you see, you have actinobacteria, Firmicutes, and so on, but they have to be at the right place. If you change, like from your gut into your blood, then you get ill. So it's not really the clade, but it is just where it is. And this is just evolution together with our ancestors of the microbiome. And there's an interesting paper from Yasmin Belkaid, which I heard in Vienna speaking. And here you see antibiotics. We have so much in the cattle and hospitals, you know this. And I will go faster over this. Who is interested just looks at it. In Sweden they get like a quarter of antibiotics they get in the US. And the consequences are big. So a disease that has been gone through successfully can be compared to a process of learning. It could have been an infection from outside or an imbalance from inside. Many children become more mature, not only in their body, but even in their mind and spirit, after having had a disease that was successfully gone over. Yeah. So we should not avoid diseases always. We should really go through, because afterwards there's a learning process for the immune system and for the nervous system. So this is what we might hear later, show a viral archive for metazoan memory. So we have virus in our memory. And also this is something that is interesting. So no human protein is exempt from bacterial motifs, not even one. And there's a scientific paper stating this. So it makes sense that we might react with autoimmunity if we have all these bugs in our genes. If they are very old, we are used to have them. If they are younger, might be different. So this is from my paper. So only conclusion, you will find it in my website. HIV is not a real existing virus, but a statistical construct. Los Alamos has this. Sequences. HIV sequences are everywhere, at least endogenous in Homo sapiens, Neanderthalensis, so long ago I would say, in human chromosome 8 and tumor tissue. Consequently, the existence of HIV being an infectious exogenous virus has not been proven. Stress drives disease and fast evolution by inflammation and change of genetic and genomic diversity. There's a strong impact on the genetic components known as HIV, which are influenced by the diversity from the genes of the HLA system. HIV transmission from mother to child might become life-promoting for the offspring, leading to new genes for the HLA system. In some constellations, allergies might result. Horizontal gene transfer and endogenization of microbial genes, as well as transport of microRNAs and proteins for different processes between cells and in cellular functions, provide a more complex view of gene expression in the evolutionary content. Activation of gene expression by food or sperm, allergy, self and non-self differentiation, which means autoimmunity, provide a new perspective on health and disease. The term virus is not a clearly defined entity. It is defined by the interaction of a body's reaction to a non-self particle. So you cannot say this is a virus. Maybe for one it acts like a virus, for the other not, because it's an interaction process and not a definition process. So, to immunization, we already know this, that the diseases have gone down before immunization came. We had this already. And here we see just the rapid emergence of autoimmune and immune-mediated diseases in USA, Crohn's disease, multiple sclerosis, type 1 diabetes, asthma, and so on, higher and higher. And we see these pigs here, those that are exposed to dirt are much more healthy. Gut microbes fend off diabetes in mice is another scientific paper. The gut's friendly viruses revealed is another one. And you see the vaccine schedule from 1962 to 2016, from 5 to about 70 doses has enhanced. So you see what was done to the children, yeah. No, it's all children and till the age of 18 years.
18, so children.
Till 18, yeah. Okay, yeah, you're right. Thank you. So I just mentioned Dr. Stefan Lanker because he's from Germany and a biologist, and he worked on a lot of topic concerning virus and vaccination. He won the process, I think last year or the year before, at court concerning the topic that there does not exist a scientific paper that can prove the existence of the measles virus. This information has to be spread in the society, but no consequences. And yes, these are the natural infection sites, and by vaccination we go over these, because we inject, we don't go over nose or mouth, or we go into muscle or into blood. And this is just different to what is natural. The growth material for the vaccinations is Vero cells, which is monkey kidney cells, green monkey kidney cells, which always continue SIV, CIV monkey, so monkey HIV, and HeLa cells, which are human cancer cells, and chicken eggs. So in the ingredients we had already the discussion, and we have new ingredients like these ASO3 and so on, and squalene, and most aluminium hydroxide is very poisonous because it stimulates the immune system when it even does not want to react. But if you give aluminium hydroxide, it will always react. So why? If it does not want to react, just let it. So here we have about female and male. More females have autoimmune diseases, more females. And chronic diseases in the USA is just getting more. And this is interesting. You have autism and organic food sales, but I think this is only correlation and not causation, because people like to live green, and on the other hand, they get vaccinations. So you have a typical correlation, but not causation.
Yeah, good one.
So here's a paper: do aluminium vaccine adjuvants contribute to rising prevalence of autism? And the paper is a scientific one, so you can look it up if you want to know more. Also prolactin and autoimmunity, that means that pregnant women get often autoimmune reactions. And vaccine-induced autoimmunity, we have from very famous Yehuda Schönfeld and al. A paper, The Role of Molecular Mimicry and Autoimmune Cross-Reactions. As I told you, we are made of bugs. We are made of bacteria, of what is called bacteriophage and so on. So self and non-self is just something that could be mixed up. So he calls it molecular mimicry. And you will see what he found out. And it's also about our balance in the immune system, more about autoimmunity or not. It has to do with stress, but we heard so much about. Electrosmog is also a paper, and together with vitamin D, which is helpful, as you stated already, and who is interested in this can also trigger autoimmune disease. So what does it mean to be human? When stress is good, when is stress good for me? Stress is good for me when it is moderate. Moderate means I have interest in life, I'm not depressed. And too much means that I am going sick. So we have to find our own balance, our own performance. This is again about oxidative potential. So we have to have high activated electrons in our body, otherwise they will not react. And how do we get this? Not by empty calories, but we heard already by green nutrition, fresh and vivid. And this means we get energetic electrons. Electrons we need because we always oxidate in our body. And the opposite of oxidation is reduction, and reduction means getting electrons, but they have to be on a high level, and this you get only with good food, not with the junk food. This is showing that we need vitamin D by sunlight. This is the photosynthesis, but also it shows that electrons have to be lifted to a higher potential. And this only goes with photons, and photons means the sun. So it is vitamin D and sun, because we need the photons too for processes. And you find this in vegetables, you find it with light. It does not have to be the big sun, but light. And then our mitochondria react, and we are full of energy, and life is good. Here's an interesting paper from Nobel Prize winner Montagnier on a topic of water memory. Who is interested, he's now working on a real different field, like on electromagnetic fields. You see water is a dipole or dipole, and if the clusters are very big, they cannot enter the cell. So we have to have smaller clusters, and if the pH is too low, the clusters are big. But if the pH is higher, so alkaline, the clusters are smaller and can enter the cell. And this is better because we need a lot of water, as you will see. This is the amount of water in an embryo or in an old person. And I just don't read it, but you see it. We have, many people die just because they don't have enough water in their body. And they are not aware of this. And if they are too sour, too acid, they can drink water and water, but they will spill it again. You have to be alkaline to keep it. So what is really necessary? What is the basis of our life? Our life is the basis is our Earth, and the Earth has a magnetic field. But so have humans. Humans have a magnetic field, like the Earth. And the swing of the Earth, the Schumann resonance, and of our body is more or less the same. So if they change the magnetic field of our Earth with experiments, this is also affecting our body. And here you see all the different frequencies we can be put on, and you know that we should be aware of this. If two persons communicate and like, they are in resonance. If they dislike, there might be like dissonance. But we always have this field. You can measure it. It's not esoteric. You can really make scientific measuring of our electromagnetic field. So Paracelsus says, everything is dependent on the concentration. You be always aware if somebody tells you, you take all or you take nothing. Think about the concentration. And the one of the last things is there was a test with rabbits, and they got tumor cells, but the assistant wasn't tall, was only about 1.60 meters, so she could not reach the cages on the top, only on the floor. So what she did was she only gave strokes to the rabbits that were on the floor and gave water and nutrition, which was easier to give on the top and on the floor. But the strokes and the talking changed the health of the rabbits. Those that got the strokes had no tumors and the others had. And this is a scientific book I read long ago from a professor, so you can find it in the internet. So you see, motility and functional disorders, psychological, social and somatic features. We heard so much about this, so I don't have to talk it. We had excellent presentations on body, soul and mind. Look at this picture. I don't know, maybe you know it. I don't know what you see. What you see? You see angels or bats. If you see the black, it's the bat. If you see the white, here, look this, it's an angel. So it's like in life. You always see angels, you always see bats. Maybe you sometimes should see bats, but most you should see angels. But you also should be like realistic, but not pessimistic. So autopoiesis means, like after Humberto Maturana and Francisco Varela, it means they are from Chile, to define the self-maintaining chemistry of living cells. Since then, the concept has been also applied to the fields of cognition, system theory and sociology. So autopoiesis means we decide for our life. You see from the Heart Math Institute in the US, you see all the electromagnetic field, and our heart has the biggest, not the brain. It's the heart that has the strongest field, electromagnetic field, but it interacts with gut and brain and with the whole body. And each cell has an electromagnetic field, but they combine together, and if you are in balance, everything is beautiful. So, you are your thoughts and your feelings. Communication between living creatures influences cell communication and thus health and disease. Self-regulation solve your problems. Not only think positive, but also solve your problems. Balance is the key to life. Don't forget it. And maybe meditation helps. Many people have good outcomes with meditation. We are coming to understand health not as the absence of disease, but rather as a process by which individuals maintain their sense of coherence. This is from Anton Antonovsky. And also we have the Germanische Heilkunde from Magister Gerd Hammer, who said a shock can lead to disease if it gets you on the wrong moment, in the wrong organ, in the wrong moment. The trauma sets a visible mark in the brain, which is called Hammer-Shaherd. Finding the cause will lead to the right treatment. You always have to find the cause. During the healing phase, microorganisms are working for regaining the balance. This is such a big work I cannot explain now, but you can look it up if you are interested. Some of you know it already. So why I mentioned it, because he long ago said shock, and he said microorganisms, and this is what we now have in the modern scientific literature and findings. So virus means translated poison. Infections means infectious. Infection means coming from outside and causing disease. But to HIV, it's more or less, and with other diseases, the old terms, gene virus, does not correspond with the latest scientific findings. We have to find in the discussions other terms, and we have to explain what we mean. Because these old-fashioned things like getting a virus or not getting a virus just do not correspond with our latest findings. Oh, yeah. So all truth goes through 3 stages. First it is ridiculed, then it is violently opposed, finally it is accepted as self-evident. This is from Arthur Schopenhauer from Philosophy Germany. Or the Hippocratic Oath, as we heard already. As to diseases make a habit of 2 things, to help or at least not to do harm. Oh, let theories die instead of humans. That is what Karl Popper, the Austrian British philosopher, said long ago. And this is what I want to mention by finishing. The technical improvement is really going up and up again, but the awareness and ethics are really slow changing. And this is where we have also like dissents between the 2 things that are necessary to think about. Ethics is not valuable, but technical improvement is, but we have to change this. Yeah, humans and other living creatures are the outcome of microbial competition and symbiosis. Bacteriophages and so on, they all combined to our epigenetics and our genes and our lifestyle. The principle of life and universe is still not revealed, but is it God? Is it spirit? Is it self? Is it autopoiesis? Is it by chance? Is it a higher principle? Is it eternal law? Is it scientific laws? We don't know, but evolution is still going on, and for most of humanity, the pace is too fast. We need time for adaptation, slowing down and maybe finding ourselves. Remember, it is you yourself who has the power of healing yourself. We heard this already, and I was very grateful to the lady and the gentleman who said it. Remember, so, society, but also society is responsible for the conditions that do promote life and health, like working conditions, income, housing, education systems, justice, freedom and democracy. We have to focus more on non-material principles, which we have neglected until now. So it is you, but it is also society. Life is comprised by a homeostatic balance. Genes and the environment interact together. The material needed comes from the healthy nutrition. You need energetic electrons and photons to build and sustain the electromagnetic field you are. Human cells are resonators. The program is based on your spirit, mood and mind. So it is material and it is program. So change your mood and mind in a better way. As to Albert Einstein, the ideals which have always shone before me and filled me with the joy of living are goodness, beauty and truth. To make a goal of comfort or happiness has never appealed to me. A system of ethics built on this basis would be sufficient only for a herd of cattle. There are only 2 races, the decent and the undecent. We have to promote the decent. This is what Viktor Frankl, Austrian psychiatrist, once said. And he also said, what a human being needs is a meaning for life. So you have to find your own special meaning for life. And Jane Goodall says, you cannot get through a single day without having an impact on the world around you.
What you do? Crystal, we have to come to the end.
Yes, sorry, I come to the end, yeah? What you do makes a difference, and you have to decide what kind of difference you want to make. Thank you for your attention.